gets the crowd involved, doesn't it? I should like to speak to Victor in disembowelment. I should like to speak to Victor. I'm not one.
Hello, history buffs, time travelers, and scholars. Pirates may have lived free lives, but when they were caught, the punishments were terrifying. From public hangings to painful tortures, these were the worst fates for the most feared pirates of the seas. The brutal bite of the cat-o'-nine tails. The cat-o'-nine tails was one of the harshest punishments on pirate and naval ships. This multi-tailed whip, often called the cat, had 9 knotted cords attached to a sturdy handle. Each cord was usually 2 feet long, made of tough rope or rawhide, and sometimes even fitted with metal or glass shards for extra pain. When swung, it cut through the air with a whistle, followed by the sickening thud as it struck a sailor's bare back. The resulting injuries left both physical and emotional scars, a grim reminder of the discipline enforced at sea. The cat-o'-nine tails was a feared symbol of naval discipline, as described by naval historian Enam Roger. It was used widely by captains for offenses ranging from minor rule-breaking to major ones like theft or mutiny. In the British Royal Navy, flogging with the cat was officially allowed in 1661 under the Articles of War. Some captains, like the infamous William Kidd, were notorious for using the cat on their crews, further adding to their reputation for cruelty. One notorious flogging incident happened in 1797 aboard the HMS Hermione, where Captain Hugh Pigot, known for his cruelty, ordered several sailors whipped for being too slow to furl the sails. The excessive punishment led to a bloody mutiny, where the crew, driven to the brink, killed Pigot and his officers. This act shook the British Admiralty, leading them to reconsider flogging's role in naval discipline. Flogging often inflicted brutal damage. Some sailors received over 500 lashes for serious crimes, leading to infections and, in some cases, death from shock or blood loss. One sailor who stole cheese on the USS Chesapeake was punished with 500 lashes in 1812. He survived, but many did not. Pirates also used flogging to enforce discipline. Black Bart Roberts, a feared pirate, included flogging in his own set of rules, while Edward Lowe used the cat in even more cruel ways, like soaking the whip in pickle brine to increase the agony. Public opinion on flogging eventually turned against it. Writers like Charles Dickens and Herman Melville, who experienced naval life firsthand, criticized flogging in their work, helping to sway public sentiment. By the late 19th century, most navies had abolished flogging, putting an end to one of the most brutal punishments in maritime history. Left to die, the harsh fate of marooned pirates. The calm sound of waves might seem peaceful, but for pirates, it often meant a grim end. Marooning was a punishment that filled many pirates with fear, a fate of being left alone on an empty island with almost nothing to survive on. This was not just a plot in pirate tales, it was a real and terrifying reality. The practice, dating back to early seafaring times, involved leaving someone stranded as punishment, and by the 1600s, it became an infamous penalty among pirates. Captain Bartholomew Roberts, known as Black Bart, even had rules about it, stating that if anyone tried to desert or hid secrets, they'd be left with a bottle of water, a bit of gunpowder, and a pistol with a single shot. This lone bullet was a cruel option for marooned men who faced starvation or other dangers. Often, they'd use it to end their suffering quickly. One famous case of survival was Alexander Selkirk, a Scottish privateer marooned in 1704. Left with basic supplies on an isolated island off Chile, he survived for over 4 years and inspired the classic novel Robinson Crusoe. Most marooned men, however, weren't so lucky and faced a short, painful end. Some islands, like Dead Man's Chest in the Caribbean, became known as marooning spots. Even the notorious Blackbeard once marooned several crew members who dared to question him. While some survivors like Selkirk thrived, many felt the psychological agony of isolation, longing for an escape that never came. The terrifying plank punishment. Imagine the eerie creak of old wood beneath your feet as a salty sea breeze brushes against you, bringing whispers of doom from below. This was the reality for those forced to walk the plank, a horrifying punishment often brought to life in pirate stories and movies. Unlike the thrilling scenes in Hollywood films, This cruel act was real and terrifying, with some of history's worst pirates using it to punish captives or disloyal crew members. Though not as common as many tales suggest, the plank was a rare but effective way for pirates to show their power. It was a dramatic way to instill fear among their crew and make them think twice before betraying the captain. Pirates like Blackbeard were known for their fierce reputations, and while he may not have forced prisoners to walk the plank, many others certainly did. One such pirate was Captain François l'Olonnais. He was known for his extreme cruelty and famously made his Spanish prisoners walk into shark-infested waters. He even laughed as they met their grim fate, watching them struggle against the waves. His brutal acts left a dark legacy, inspiring other pirates to use the plank as both a punishment and a frightening warning. Notorious pirates like Edward Lowe and Bartholomew Roberts, also known as Black Bart, also used this method to strike fear into the hearts of their enemies. Edward Lowe was infamous for his extreme cruelty. In the 1720s, he would make his captives walk the plank over open waters, leaving them terrified as they faced the unknown depths below. Black Bart took it a step further by forcing crew members of captured ships to watch their friends walk the plank. The sight was so horrifying that it left them horrified for life, knowing they could be next. The plank punishment was more than just a way to get rid of enemies. It was a way for pirates to show how ruthless and powerful they were. The fear of being forced to walk the plank kept many in line and made sure everyone remembered who was in charge. While it may seem like a strange and cruel practice, it played a significant role in the world of pirates, leaving a legacy that still echoes through stories today. Hanging in chains, the gruesome fate of gibbeting. Pirates who met their end could also face a horrifying punishment known as gibbeting, or hanging in chains. After their execution, the bodies of pirates were displayed in iron cages, called gibbets, near busy ports or harbors. This gruesome sight served as a warning to others, reminding them of the consequences of a life of crime. One notorious pirate, Edward Lowe, narrowly avoided this terrifying fate. However, his lieutenant wasn't so fortunate. His rotting body was hung for all to see at Charleston Harbor, a grim reminder of what could happen to those who crossed the pirates. The infamous Captain Kidd also faced this dreadful end. After his death, he was publicly gibbeted in London, where his decaying body hung in a cage over the River Thames for 3 long years. The sight of his lifeless form swinging in the wind was meant to deter others from a life of piracy. Yet, it also left a chilling mark on the public's imagination. The image of a pirate's body hanging in chains became a powerful symbol of fear and justice, inspiring tales in literature, such as Treasure Island and The Beggar's Opera. These stories captured the dark fascination with piracy and the gruesome fates that awaited those who chose that dangerous path. The practice of gibbeting, though horrifying, became part of the legend of pirates, etching their tales into history and culture for generations to come. Caged in infamy. Imagine standing by the harbor, where the salty breeze carries a terrible smell of decay. People gather to gawk at a horrifying spectacle, the remains of once feared pirates swaying gently in rusting iron cages. This gruesome display was known as gibbeting, or hanging in chains, a harsh punishment that served as a warning to all. The sight was meant to strike fear into the hearts of both pirates and ordinary people, reminding them of the consequences of lawlessness on the high seas. The renowned pirate historian Marcus Rediker once described the gibbet as the state's theater of death, a grim stage where the power of authority was showcased for everyone to see. Gibbeting became most common in the 17th and 18th centuries and was not just about execution. After being hanged, a pirate's body would be placed in a specially crafted iron cage called a gibbet. These gruesome displays were typically positioned near busy ports or crossroads, ensuring maximum visibility to deter others from pursuing a life of crime. In 1722, the infamous pirate Edward Lowe barely escaped being gibbeted when he evaded capture off the coast of Boston. However, his lieutenant, Charles Harris, wasn't as lucky. Harris's rotting body was hung at the entrance to Charleston Harbor, greeting ships for months as they arrived at the busy South Carolina port. One of the most notorious cases of gibbeting was that of Captain William Kidd. His career as a privateer turned pirate ended brutally in 1701 after a highly publicized trial in London. Kidd was hanged at Execution Dock in Wapping, and his body was then placed in a gibbet, suspended over the Thames at Tilbury Point for 3 long years. His decaying corpse served as a grim marker for ships entering and leaving London, a fate shared by many pirates. The poet John Gay referenced this gruesome spectacle in his Beggar's Opera of 1728, writing, "There's Kidd in chains, the pirate." This line helped cement Kidd's gibbeted form in the public imagination for generations. The process of gibbeting was cruel in itself. The gibbet was often designed to fit the specific criminal, with iron bands encircling the neck, torso, and limbs. Some gibbets even included a small cage for the head, ensuring that as the flesh decayed, the skull would remain in place, grinning a chilling warning at passers-by. In 1752, the body of a smuggler named James Field was placed in a particularly well-crafted gibbet in Kent, England, so durable that it held his remains intact for over 2 decades. Locals nicknamed it Field's Iron Petticoat. The length of time that bodies hung in gibbets varied widely based on weather conditions and the durability of the cage. Some bodies might remain for years or even decades. For example, the pirate George Wood, executed in 1765, swung in his iron cage on Beacon Hill in Halifax, Nova Scotia, for over 20 years. Local legends held that on stormy nights, Wood's ghost could be heard rattling his chains, a chilling reminder of his earthly punishment. Similarly, John Breads, executed for murder in 1742, hung in a gibbet in Rye, England, for an astonishing 50 years. The durability of his gibbet led to the local saying, "You'll last as long as Breads," when referring to something long-lasting. As we conclude our exploration of the gruesome history of pirate punishments, remember to like and subscribe for more captivating tales from the high seas.